So if you're ready, let's get going.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I've worn my trusty penguin shirt today, which goes along with my penguin earrings. And I don't know if you can see my penguin
That's
earrings or not,
styling.
but hey, what can a girl do? What can a chief penguin do?
No, I appreciate it. And first and foremost, I welcome both you, Melissa, and all of our viewers to today's episode of the HKN Connection. To introduce myself, I'll be your host, Joseph Green. I'm one of the 2021 IEEE-HKN student governors. To tell you a little bit about Melissa before diving into it, Melissa is a globally recognized mentor and leader who has dedicated her career towards enabling young entrepreneurs by empowering early stage startups and teaching technical skills to students to foster digital intelligence in underserved communities. In the pursuit of her goal, she has become the chief penguin of IBM's entrepreneur and student experience and CEO of her own company, Mentor Nations. As an avid lifelong learner, Melissa is also currently pursuing a PhD studying the importance of digital inclusivity in underrepresented communities and how it relates to economic empowerment, educational outcomes, and more. Melissa, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And by the way, let's call this a potential pre-celebration session. And the reason being is at 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight, and it's, we're recording this at, I guess it's 9 a.m. So in the next few hours, I will be defending my research.
Oh, way.
So I'm defending today. I've been working on my PhD for 7 long years because I've been working full time as well. So I haven't done a full time, I haven't been able to focus on it full time. But yeah, I defend today. And so if all goes well, I'll be able to call myself a doctor soon.
Oh my gosh, well, that's super exciting. And I'm sure next time we meet up, I'll be calling you Dr. Sassy. And that's
I love it. I love it. Who doesn't want to be
yeah.
Dr. Sassy, right?
I think that's almost as good of a title as Chief Penguin.
I know, which I'm guessing that you want some insight into where did this whole chief penguin thing come from?
I absolutely love it. And, to add some transparency, penguins are my favorite animal. So I just got to ask, how did you get the unique title of Chief Penguin? And what does it mean being Chief Penguin?
Yeah. So I used to work at Microsoft, and I spent 5 years at Microsoft. I'm at IBM right now, as you mentioned. And I ran across a couple of people doing some cool things with either a Twitter handle or a job title at Microsoft. And I had this like kind of FOMO thing going on of like, oh, I want a cool job title. We've got Thready the T-Rex, we've got the Chief Ninja Cat. Fast forward until a couple years ago, I came to IBM from Microsoft to create my own startup program. And as you mentioned, I now head up student and entrepreneur experience globally within the IBM-Z division of IBM. And I was in Karachi, Pakistan, and I met this woman, and she was the CEO of this incubator in Karachi, Pakistan, called the Nest IO. So imagine you've got the nest, and what likely lives in a nest, the big bird. And so her job title was the big bird. And I'm like, wow, we've got a T-Rex, we've got a ninja cat, we've got a big bird, and I got nothing. And so I decided I'm going to do it. I'm going to give myself this animal job title because my job title was a bit boring. It was one of the normal ones that everybody uses, everybody has. And so I thought, IBM is and my team were such a big proponent of open source, and the penguin is the symbol of open source, or the Linux machine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it comes from Linux. And so then I thought, oh, okay, what about something with penguin? And I didn't want to be the queen because that assumed there'd be a king, and I didn't want to share the stage. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be the chief penguin. Nice. So the penguin was born. It's been I've been called IBM-Z's chief penguin by many of our most senior executives in the C-suite of IBM. I've been, quoted in UN News and, opensource.com and, different, publications. My projects have been highlighted in, Forbes. I've spoken at IEEE award ceremonies and the UN, World Bank activities, and really all over the world, from, speaking to presidents and ministers all the way through to janitors, students, and all walks of life.
That's awesome. And, I think that's really cool. It's very inspiring. It seems like through IBM and being able to give yourself this title, it's allowed you to, find yourself in your profession and and present yourself in a very unique light. And, I think we can do a bit of an exchange here. Next time I see you, I'll call you Dr. Sassy, and I'm going to work on a title for myself in
I
animal.
love it. I
And there
love
you
it.
go. We
I'd
can
love
do
to empower the world, inspire the world to think about how can you be an and, not an or,
I like
meaning
it.
how can you do all of the many things that you want in life versus having to choose between this and that. And, why should you have to fit some mold,
Oh,
that someone said at whatever point in time. I created my own job at IBM 2 times over and really did the same thing, when I was in my role at Microsoft. So I've had a really wonderful opportunity to really craft my own, direction, if you will.
That's awesome. And speaking of empowering, it's honestly impressive. I was doing a bit of research right last night, and it looks like through IBM and your company, Mentor Nations, you and your staff has been able to enable tens of thousands of students across 12 countries and multiple startups across the globe. So I just have to ask, what drives you and your staff of mentors to affect so many communities through your work?
Yeah, so I'll talk about Mentor Nations first, and then I'll talk about IBM. Even though they're related, they're separate. So Mentor Nations is really my entrepreneurial endeavor. We've taught tens of thousands of young people to code in 12 countries. It's youth-led and youth-run. We have an IoT lab, robotics lab, and co-working space in Tunis, Tunisia, so sandwiched in between Algeria and Libya in North Africa. We really started it, for a number of different reasons that are, really close to me, but I'm very passionate about digital skills, empowering women and girls, inspiring youth to prepare for the future of work. We're the largest, youth nonprofit in the country focused on digital skills. We have a strategic partnership with the U.S. Department of State where we're part of their big grants program. We've gotten funding, minor amounts of funding from Google, HP, SAP, and have been nominated for several UN awards. I was inspired by, to create my own nonprofit after, recognizing that my daughter, Zahra, who lives in North Africa and is in the process of coming back home, over the next few days, she did not have access to computers in her classroom. They had one that they shared. And I thought, how can any young person be prepared for the future of work without having access to a device? That's where it started. Fast forward to today, we sent 400 laptops to 20 schools across the country. When I worked at Microsoft, it was funded by Microsoft and HP. And then I traveled around the country teaching kids to code. It resonated. I saw it as a big, wicked problem. I saw it as an opportunity for me to solve it. And so, Mentor Nations was born. It led to me getting a new job at Microsoft, focused on digital inclusion, specifically building internet and energy access solutions, and then bringing digital skills to the newly connected. That also inspired me to kind of come in and focus on this tech startup ecosystem, because that's something I'm also passionate about. And I also ran a grant program at Microsoft for digital inclusion. So it was a really nice connector into coming and creating a new startup program at IBM, and then also focusing on how do I empower and inspire students through professional development, entrepreneurial spirit, and technical skills. And in my program at IBM, I also impact tens of thousands of people every single year. Somewhere between 20, 30,000 is who I end up, kind of taking part in my events, excluding anything that happens through, social media or, written form. Last year I did 150 events in mostly virtual. And then the year before I did 52 events in 10 countries, all focused on these different realms. And lots of impact. We as IBM, we're impacting millions of people. So different budget, different realm. Than my entrepreneurial endeavor, but they all kind of come together in a nice, pretty package without creating any conflicts of interest.
That's awesome. And it's so cool to hear about the amount of work you're doing across the world to enable all of these students. And honestly, one aspect that I've learned researching for this interview was the idea of digital inclusivity. It seems like such a basic concept, but it's something that I don't see as necessarily talked about as readily in today's environment.
Well,
So
especially if you're connected to the internet and you're
yeah.
in engineering school. I think when you have connectivity, you kind of take it for granted because you've always got it,
Oh, sure.
especially for those of us who live in urban urban settings. We haven't necessarily spent time on a Native American reservation, or we may not be as connected to certain developing communities or countries, but half of the world is not connected to the internet, and the majority of people everywhere across the planet lack even the basic skills to make meaningful use of the internet. I'm the chair of IEEE's Digital Skills and Readiness Working Group. Last year, we created the first world standard for what it means to be digitally literate. And, it's kind of the culmination of my PhD, and, it kind of brings everything together. So I kind of look at myself as a bit of a, multi-hat, or, person, or like an onion, where I've got the IEEE, which is like engineering, technology standards, association that looks at, as everybody knows, different, training or, standards or other, types of things within the engineering space, which obviously is tightly connected to digital skills and intelligence. I've got my academia hat, because of my PhD research. I've got my big tech hat, which is IBM x Microsoft. And then I have my entrepreneur hat, which is my nonprofit lens. So I try to put all these things together and think about who are the different audiences when it comes to digital inclusion or skill building, and bring them together.
And that's really cool to see. It's awesome to see you take this problem you've identified and address it from several lenses, and also do so successfully. And out of that mentality, with all these initiatives you have going on, what are the long-term goals for your research and company and IBM work and Mentor Nations? What would you like to see as an end goal from these initiatives?
I'd like to see that, we have a society that is more digitally skilled and ready for the future. I'd like to see both young people as well as, the elderly or seniors have the basic skills to make meaningful use of the internet. Naturally, I want them to have access. I want them to have affordable access, but, I want to make sure that people know how to be safe and secure online. They're able to regulate their feelings and recognize feelings in others, and they've got the emotional intelligence to know how to respond to things. I'd like for people to understand the basic building blocks of what it means to code. I don't believe that everybody should be an engineer, or everyone should be a data scientist, or everyone should go into a STEM field, because we've got lots of different, types of people in the world. And, sometimes, something's just not for you. It's not a strength. But I think there's things that, as consumers of technology versus creators of technology, or creators of solutions using technology, there are things you just need to know. You need to know about your, online footprint. You need to know about kind of healthy screen time, how to recognize real from fake news. What should you share? Understand your rights, whether it comes from, your data specifically. And I want people to really understand, how can you make meaningful use of the tools and technology in front of you? How can you create economic, empowerment in your own household? How can you empower yourself? There's lots of access to different, types of learning platforms. We're going to go through a learning platform, which is one of mine from IBM today, and, kind of walk you through what that looks like. But I want people to have access to this stuff, and to, be able to research their healthcare ailments more, or in an easier fashion, without getting caught up in all of the noise that exists when you're trying to research healthcare issues. I want people to be able to work from home and do so effectively. And I don't want young people to have to decide, should I go and perform this extremist act, or do I have a future? And I want that to be part of things. I don't want women and girls to walk into a room and think, wow, I'm a girl, I don't belong here because there are way too many boys in this room. And I don't want women and girls to go through that situation. I want there to be, more gender inclusivity within tech, but equally within the venture capital funding arena. I want more, females and Black founders to get funding for their tech startups, and that to actually come to fruition, because it's the right thing to do, and not based on a PR stunt.
No, and that's really cool hearing you talk about more in depth these long-term goals that you have for your career here. And it's very interesting because it seems like there's kind of two sides to the same coin here, where it's like on one side, there's digital inclusivity, which is expanding the horizon of digital skills to underrepresented communities. But then also on the flip side, there's kind of reteaching bad practices that are out there already, like, like how to identify fake news, what's a healthy screen time, and all of these other aspects that aren't often talked about even in
Well, and they're not often connected to
yeah,
digital skills. I think a lot of times when you say digital skills, people think like, oh, that's being an engineer, is learning to code.
fair enough. No, that's
And
fair.
not everybody's going to
Yeah.
become a software engineer, but AI is here, AI is coming. And, I think managers also need to, understand, that, these repeatable tasks at some point in time, will be transition into utilizing new processes, and it might make many of us redundant. And so it's really, really important to think about not just those hardcore technical skills, but what are some of the competencies that you need to have when it comes to soft skills like adaptability, the art of persuasion, problem solving, critical thinking, the ability to be audience centered, think about empathizing with your customer. I also look at it as teamwork and collaboration, innovation and creativity. So a lot of these things that we kind of take for granted sometimes. And when you look at and do a training on what this stuff means, really putting those things to
Yeah,
work and continuing to read about them.
that's awesome. And one last question before we transition here, but many of our listeners are either students or young professionals. Do you believe that we can benefit from finding a mentor or becoming mentors ourselves?
100%. I have a 16-year-old mentor. We run a live stream every other
Awesome.
week. Yeah, you can find it at our live stream at ibm.biz slash expert. Hold on, ibm.biz slash studentx. So
Okay.
I'll give you, I'll put it in the chat window,
Yeah,
which
that'd be nice.
our participants won't be able to see, or maybe they'll be able to see it. I don't know. I'll put it in the chat window, and then you can share it out, when you do your write-up.
Yes,
If
definitely.
that's the studentx, there it is. And then you've got the student hub link, which I'm going to do a demo in a second to walk you through what that looks like.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And definitely to transition over, I mean, I know we're here, partially to talk about your phenomenal career, but you also have a very exciting opportunity to talk to us about through
I
the
do.
IBM Global Student Hub. Would you like to take control of the screen here and walk us through the student?
Yeah, sure. So before we get there, what I'm going to say is we've got this thing called the IBM Global Student Hub, and it is for students and professionals who are looking to learn more and better prepare for the future of work. You can win prizes. I actually have a bunch of T-shirts that I'm going to get over to Joe, and maybe Joe can help me figure out how to get them somewhere and
Oh,
what
yeah,
we can
for
do with
sure.
those. But I'll get them over to you. So I've got prizes. I have student contests where in each of those you can win, thousands of dollars. We have a Z ambassador program. So if you're interested in becoming an ambassador, we have that opportunity available. Our ambassadors of the year received $500 in gift cards, or a $500 gift card, as part of them being ambassador of the year. We gave away hoodies, we gave away T-shirts. We have hackathons and coding camps. We have free events all about tech skill building, preparing for the future of work through soft skills and entrepreneurship. So let me just pull up my screen and share it real quick. So we're going to put in ibm.biz slash student hub. You can see that up here in the address bar. That's the shortened link. So I think this is like the longer form link. What you're going to see here is you can see right here it says log in or register. You want to register so you can take advantage of some of the stuff that's behind the behind the wall, if you will. I'm gonna go ahead and just log in, but what you're gonna see will be something a little bit different. It will have a, it'll have your, first and last name, your email address, so a couple random questions, and then you're gonna click submit. You're gonna submit that form, And then it's going to ask you to put in a code from your email. So you're going to get a code in your email. You're going to take that code. You're going to put it into the answer box. Click submit, and then it's going to validate that you've connected your email address. You have a valid email address, because we don't want to have a bunch of junk in there. We want to make sure it's a valid email address. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get a set of terms and conditions. You accept those. And then you're going to get another window that says, do you want to join the Student Hub? You're going to say yes, because there are lots of other communities that you can join. That's why you get that next screen. So then what's going to happen is it's going to open up, and it's going to look like what mine looks like, because I've already logged in. So ignore this. This is not what you're going to see. This is me logging into our, into the platform from my side, from a single sign-on perspective. But again, yours will look different. So once you're logged in, you'll see it looks the same, but that, that little task, or that little caret or whatever it is, it's turned into contribute. So let me walk you through what's here. So you can see some things in terms of the spotlight. You can also see upcoming events. So you can see that we have a campaign going on right now for every student who registers for the platform by the end of the month, by the end of June. We're going to feed one child for the day through World Food Program's Share the Meal campaign. So if you're passionate about Tech for Good, register. If you want to speak at events, you want to write blogs, let us know, and I'll tell you how to do that. So you can see a lot of events here. I'm going to click on all events. A lot of stuff out here, right?
Yeah.
These are all free, and
awesome.
anyone can take part in them. Yep. So you can see here, you can see the blog entries. There's a lot of blogs here. There are student learning journeys. If you're taking part in a hackathon, for example, here's where you can kind of get a checklist of how do you create a good hackathon project. There are, different, pitch decks and that sort of thing. So you've got, three reasons why you should, choose a career in enterprise computing. You've got, unveiling the basics of enterprise computing. You've got what makes COBOL still a noble language. You've got different hackathons. So you can see that there's a lot of stuff in here. How did students get into tech? There's even one on neurodiversity, where we did a neurodiversity celebration so for those of you who might be dyslexic, autistic, have Asperger's, or, ADHD or whatever. There are, lots of things happening within the world of IBM to celebrate neurodiversity and, other forms of things that we, face in life. This is the discussion tab, and this is where you can ask questions and also say, hey, I'd love to be a volunteer. How do I do that? So you can see here, we've got, a few things that we need to get to in terms of answers, but for the most part, we try to keep up to date as much as possible on, the discussion tab. We already clicked on the events. You saw the events, lots of stuff going on. You've also got videos. I would encourage you to watch this one that I think is pretty good. And it'll give you an introduction to what enterprise computing is all about. It is, let me show you which one it is. Well, oh, here it is, Kickstart Your Career. So rock your enterprise computing career. This is a good one. So I'd encourage you to check that one out. Let's see if there's anything else to share. You can see how many people are in the hub as well. I think we have 1,628. Yeah,
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and our goal, by the way, is 1,664 by June 30th of this year. And we're going to keep that campaign running. So.
Oh yeah.
All right, cool. So that's a little spin through of the Student Hub. Again, it's ibm.biz/Student Hub.
That's really cool. And you said we don't necessarily just have to, engage with the content. We can reach out and also participate in generating this content for others.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can guest blog, you can, do videos. We always put, videos of our community on there. If you send us one, we'll put it up there, as long as it, meets a good threshold and it's related to, preparing for the future of work, technical skills, enterprise computing, that sort of thing.
That's awesome. It seems like through this initiative, it's a great opportunity to not just further our skills, but meet other students from around the world.
Oh yeah, there's you have an opportunity to meet your peers and experts. So wow. Yeah, it's a really great place to build your eminence and network. So thank you for mentioning that. I should have mentioned that as well, but yeah.
No, I appreciate it. And maybe to link this conversation to our prior one, How do you see the Global Student Hub and us as student participants in the Global Hub factoring into IBM's mentoring and outreach initiatives?
Yeah, so this is a program that enables you to apply for, leadership programs, hackathons, and I think
Gotcha.
that, you've got access to experts. It's up to you to figure out how to do them. Not everybody has time to mentor you, but, are there some things you can do to, earn, an opportunity to get a mentor? Meaning, wow, Joe is just rocking and rolling inside of the hub. He's like posting some content. He's reached out. Maybe we should spend some more time with Joe.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of like, how do you get noticed? How do you build your network? I'm always fascinated by students who are persistent, and I read every single discussion thing, and I'm in the hub a lot, but we also want to encourage people to participate in meaningful ways, like building their own eminence. It's not just about how do I shove IBM products in your throat, but how can you build your eminence by leveraging informal education like this?
That's really cool. And I just want to reiterate for our viewers that if we join before, what was it, June 30th here,
Yeah.
just by participating in the Student Hub, we already are having an effect on IBM's outreach because we're going to be fighting against war and hunger. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're solving the UN Sustainable Development Goals and putting your tech for good passion to work.
That's awesome. Well, it seems like a very easy step to start participating. So I'm definitely going to have to sign up after this conversation.
Awesome, good. Well, you can find me at Mentor Africa with a K on Twitter.
Awesome.
Feel free to shoot me a LinkedIn. I'm easy to find, Melissa Sassi. I'm also in the hub, so if you want to ask me anything, ask our team anything, sign up. Use the discussion tab, ask us anything.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you again, Melissa, for joining us.
Thank
Telling us
you.
about the Global Student Hub. It was really cool to see all the initiatives you have going on and IBM has going on. And there's some awesome events and videos it looks like there. So I'm going to be having fun with this later today.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. And feedback is welcome. If there's anything missing, shout. And if you want to be part of creating what's missing, we're always looking to help young people or help students to build, as I mentioned, their personal brand and their eminence.
That's awesome. Well, thank you now, everyone, for viewing. If you're a student, please consider going and joining the Student Hub, particularly during these next couple of days here. And for now, please subscribe to the channel and to keep up to date with our HKN content, and have an Eta Kappa new day. Bye now.